let's first qualify what ghosting is not. Ghosting is not when you have submitted your CV unsolicited to an agency or a company, or even have applied for a position and there's no feedback on that. In as far as possible, we do try to give feedback, but we also, specifically at StratSource, put a clause to our ads that communication will only be with shortlisted candidates. And the reason for that is that we get so many candidates applying for positions, if we do advertise a position and don't only headhunt for it, that really do not remotely qualify for the position, that to have to get back to every single one who really is just taking a chance and wasting our time and hasn't bothered to read what position they are applying for. And we get as many of those at very senior levels, and you wonder why on earth would someone at that level of seniority apply for something that they clearly know they don't qualify for, to candidates who are very, very junior and just think they'll send their CV out to anything and hopefully someone will notice it. So that's not ghosting. But ghosting is when a commitment has been made, a process has been started, discussions has been started between an individual and a recruiter, or an individual and a company, or a company towards a candidate, and then suddenly one of the parties just completely disappear off the face of the earth. So whether it is a recruiter just not responding back to a candidate anymore after some commitments have been made, whether it is a candidate having committed to send through their information and CV and then just not doing so after committing, that's ghosting. Or when a candidate simply doesn't arrive for an interview, that's ghosting. Sometimes even to the extent where they don't pitch up for a job that they've already accepted. So let me give you some examples that's happened to me in recent months. The first one I'm thinking of is a very senior engineer that I represented to one of my clients, and it's a searched position. And he was on his way to come and meet with me, and then was going to meet with the client in the next week. And so on his way, we were still communicating. He got lost halfway through, and then all of a sudden, he just ghosted, disappeared off the face of the earth. He did not take my calls anymore, did not respond to me in the week after that, and just didn't talk to me any further. And at that level of seniority, you would expect them to, even if there is a change of heart or mind, to at least handle it with that level of professionalism, but nothing from this candidate. Now, he will come back to me. I know that for sure, because even the role that he's in at the moment is just a short-term contract role. And I really will not be able to represent him again, because the risk for me to represent someone like that to my clients, and I think it's acceptable behavior to just disappear off the face of the earth. Now you see me, now you don't. It's too risky for me, and I don't want to do that to my clients or to my reputation in the market. And it leaves a very big question mark as to what reliability someone like that would have in the job. Because if something comes up that they don't like, what are they going to do? Just not do it? Just disappear? So it writes their story about how they're likely to function in a work environment as well. So I guess in hindsight, better that happened and I didn't represent him in the end, and he disappeared further on along the process. The second example I'm thinking of is a candidate that actually went through the entire process with one of my clients and actually made him an offer for the specific position. And the offer, although it was higher on the cost to company amount because of their structuring, didn't really give him much more in terms of the take-home pay. And he was not happy with that. But instead of having the maturity to actually officially decline it and thank the client for the offer and just saying, look, he can't come out on that kind of a take-home pay, he also just disappeared, ignored, didn't take calls anymore, didn't decline the offer officially, just waited for it to lapse, and the client kind of needed to keep on asking, well, what's happening? Is he going to accept? Is he just needing a little bit more time to think? Such unprofessional behavior. And I mean, we're not talking about a junior individual here. We're talking about someone who's got 20 years working experience behind him. So again, someone like that will not represent him again, because the risk to work with someone who thinks that it's not necessary to act professionally, again, is not someone that I would want to necessarily represent to other clients and put them through the same thing. I actually heard in the last year or so of a very senior executive. It was either a CEO or a CFO position in the States, where a candidate accepted the position at that level. And on the first day when he was supposed to pitch up to work, he simply just did not pitch up, and no one could get a hold of him at all. After that, he did not respond to calls. He did not reply to any messages. And they knew that he was still around and that he was still alive. So it wasn't like something happened that took him out of the game completely. But he just simply did not pitch up for work, even though he took a position at such a senior level. Very unprofessional behavior. And for me, this is not something that I deal with regularly. So that's why it stands out so much when it happens in succession, like it did this year with me, with candidates doing these kind of things. But it almost seems like some of them take ghosting as a strategy for applying for roles and being in the market. And it really is a very bad strategy to follow. On the flip side of that, I have a story of a candidate that I placed in a position last year, and he was supposed to start working just as the lockdowns started being implemented in South Africa. And just before that, he gave me a call and he said, look, he's not going to take the position, although he has accepted it. They've made him a counter offer from his current companies. He's going to stay on where he is. Naturally, I'm not very happy with this. I mean, it's like a week and a half before he's supposed to start his new job, but he handled it with that level of professionalism. I obviously told him why counter offers are such a bad idea. And nonetheless, he did stay with his current employer. And he then contacted me about a month or two back and he said, please, will I represent him again? He realized that everything that I said about counter offers is the truth. The same reasons why I wanted to leave then is still the reasons why I wanted to leave, even though they offered him a promotion at that stage. And would I mind representing him? And because of the maturity and the professionalism that he handled it previously, and he didn't just ghost on that, I did actually take up his CV again. I represented him to one of my clients, and we are very close to actually concluding a process with one of the clients for a successful placement with this candidate. So you can see so different the outcomes and the results and how we continue to work together. He's learned his lesson and we can continue to work together, and that professionalism speaks loudly. Now, ghosting is as prevalent and maybe even more prevalent from employer sides, and especially large organizations and multinationals and corporates seem to think it's okay to ghost candidates in many cases. So they will take an individual through a recruitment process, interviews, and then just not give them any feedback, not let them know they placing someone else, but they're not letting these candidates officially know that we have made an offer to someone else and we're not going to take it further with you anymore. And that is equally bad on a client side. So as much as a candidate writes their story and positions themselves as someone that people don't want to represent anymore, similarly, there are certain employers who are making such a habit, and yes, because of their strength in the market, they will always attract people, but there are some very key, exceptional individuals that just say, we don't want to work for them anymore because we have been ghosted by them more than once, or we have heard that they ghost candidates. They don't come back. You apply for positions and they literally just don't respond to you, even if you have been through a process with them. And again, remember, we are talking here when someone has been through a process, not just when someone has submitted an unsolicited CV through to a company. Or applied for positions that they don't even remotely qualify for. But, it's as important because companies are also writing that letter about how they value candidates' applications and how they value candidates in the process. And it's a small tweak, but it can make a very big difference in the caliber and the quality of the candidates that you are able to attract, because your name in the market says, yes, we do value these people, we do look after them, or no, we actually really disregard them. They're just one of a million. Ghosting as a recruitment strategy really is a very poor recruitment strategy and extremely unprofessional, and something that would behoove us all to actually, own up, take responsibility, be accountable for those positions we put out there and those individuals we work with, and as far as possible, try and handle it with some maturity and some respect for other people.